In this lesson, you will learn Dutch words about cooking and baking because it might be a bit confusing if you compare it to English. Hallo lieve vrienden. So this is the lesson about cooking and baking in Dutch words, right? So first of all, if you like this content and it's valuable to you, give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel so I can keep doing this and I can expand my reach. So cooking in Dutch is koken, so that's the verb. And if I say I cook, then it's ik kook. By the way, sometimes it's also used to say I am angry or I'm furious. Ik kook van woede means I am super furious with anger. I am cooking over from rage, basically. But we are now talking about cooking and preparing meals. So basically, koken is an umbrella term for preparing a meal using heat, right? That is koken. But we also have the word baking in Dutch, that is bakken. And I know in English, you can refer to cooking also to something that you are frying, right? So if it's done, then you will say it's cooked. But in Dutch, we don't do that. We keep those two terms separate. So what's the difference? Preparing a meal or a dish that you are cooking in Dutch, ik ben aan het koken, I am cooking, that means I am boiling something in water, right? So the water is boiling, then you put your vegetables in and then you are cooking the vegetables. That's how it's used in Dutch. So, ik ga de bonen koken means I am putting the beans in boiling water until it's done. That's what it means. And the word bakken is done without the liquid, right? So that is stir frying and also deep frying. So that is a liquid, but it's oil. And it's not boiling water or another liquid like wine or anything like that. So that is what we call bakken. So basically how I remember it is bakken is done dry in a pan and koken is done wet. So if you are stir frying vegetables in a pan, then you call that bakken. Or if the pan is actually a wok, then you will say ik ga de groenten wokken, because that has become a verb now. Also very nice to know is that the Dutch are traditionally a potato country. They are potato eaters, right? Nowadays, all kinds of kitchens have entered the society, like Italian, Chinese, Surinamese, which is my background, Thai, name it, you name it. It's all to be found in the Netherlands. However, originally, before we had all the immigration taking place until about like a century ago, everybody just ate potatoes for dinner and bread for lunch and breakfast. So potatoes is a very versatile vegetable, right? You can do anything with it. You can cook it in water, that is koken. I am cooking the potatoes in water. Ik kook de aardappelen. But you can also chop them up in fries size and then fry it, deep fry or air fry it. And if you deep fry it in oil, that is what we call frituren. So these fries are deep fried. Deze patat is gefrituurd. And you can also do something else with that, which is a very popular and delicious snack. That is, if you have leftover cooked potatoes, they are done, but they were just cooked in boiling water. If you have leftovers from that, the next day or a few days later, you can coat it in butter and then fry it in a pan or in an air fryer. And that is what we call opbakken. So if you would say, I have some potato leftovers, I'm going to fry them in butter, then you will say, ik heb wat aardappelen over, ik ga ze opbakken. and that is delicious with a sauce like ketchup. I love it. And that is what you can do with potatoes, right? By the way, leftovers also have a very specific word in Dutch that is kliekjes. So I have a refrigerator full of leftovers is in Dutch. Ik heb een koelkast vol met kliekjes. And traditionally the Dutch would have a day in the week that would be kliekjesdag. That is leftover day, where you have kept all the leftovers of the entire week and that day you will eat it all up. So that is basically an old Dutch tradition to do that. In some families they still do that. I never did that because in my family it was a custom that after the second day you just throw it away. You don't keep it for a week. Okay, back to cooking versus baking. If you say that your vegetables are done, so they are not raw anymore, then in Dutch the word for that is gaar. So I use the pronunciation of r for the R. You can also say gaar. But for this lesson, I just keep it on gaar. If you are going to throw vegetables in the pan that are raw, and then after that they are done, in Dutch you will say, ik doe de rauwe groenten in de pan en ze zijn klaar wanneer ze gaar zijn. They're done when they're done. And if they're just before done, then you can say de groenten zijn ongaar. So then you have to leave it in the pan a little longer to make them done, right? And so the word for raw is rauw and done is gaar. By the way, in English you would say if it's overdone, it's overcooked, right? So the vegetables are overcooked. But if you would translate it literally to Dutch, overgekookt, that means something else. Overkoken means that your pan is too full and the water rises and it boils over, right? So the English word for that is to boil over. That is overkoken. So be careful not to boil it over. Wees voorzichtig dat het niet gaat overkoken. Then something that is confused a lot, that is baking a cake, which in Dutch, the word cake is something else, right? It's also a type of cake, but we mean a specific type of cake. And that is in English a pastel or a pound cake, right? It is long and it's like a block of cake and it has no frosting and stuff like that usually. That is what we call in Dutch cake. Do you want a slice of cake? Wil je een sneetje cake? While a cake in English, a birthday cake, is what we call taart. So, voor mijn verjaardag ga ik een taart bakken, means for my birthday I will bake a cake. Alright, now you know a little bit more about the Dutch way of cooking and the words that belong to that. Hope this was valuable to you, and I'll see you in the next lesson.